Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar titled Savings and Stewardship, Energy Efficiency in Worship Facilities. My name is Erin Cameron, and I'm the Development and Outreach Coordinator for Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. A few housekeeping items before we get started here. So all of the attendee lines have been muted throughout the presentation just to ensure sound quality. But please don't keep this from asking. Don't let this keep you from asking questions. We encourage you to please type them in using the control panel in the questions box on the control panel, and we'll answer the questions at the very end of the presentation today. For those of you not familiar with Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, we are a regional organization focused on promoting responsible energy choices that create global warming solutions and ensure clean, safe, and healthy communities throughout the Southeast. Our presenters today will be Louise Gorenflow from Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light, Jerry Lawson from the Environmental Protection Agency, and Taylor Allred from the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. We will also have Thayer Tomlinson, a contractor for Energy and Security Group, on the line to help us answer questions at the end of the presentation today. Louise Gorenflow currently serves as the Coordinating Secretary of Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light and is a member of its steering committee. She has been an advocate of TVA Clean Energy for nearly 35 years, networking with and actively engaging other clean energy partners in TVA Clean Energy policy development, representing the Tennessee chapter of the Sierra Club on TVA's stakeholder group of its Integrated Resource Plan. Louise also is the network developer of Climate Knoxville, a partnership of Knoxville-based NGOs, faith groups, research groups, and businesses which collectively work on effective climate policies. Jerry Lawson is the National Manager for the Energy Star Small Business and Congregation Network with the Environmental Protection Agency. Jerry was one of the very first energy efficiency professionals hired by the EPA in 1990 to help develop the corporate Green Lights program, which preceded Energy Star as EPA's first voluntary market-based program to address greenhouse gas emissions. He has since headed Energy Star's work for small business and faith community sectors. Taylor Allred joined the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy in June 2014. His role is to advocate for the implementation and ongoing growth of energy efficiency programs in the Southeast with a focus on Tennessee and the Tennessee Valley Authority. He participates in regulatory proceedings and promotes effective strategies for utilities to help customers to minimize waste and thereby reduce future energy demand and the need for new generation resources. Prior to joining SACE, Taylor worked as an energy research analyst at SNL Financial and as a financial analyst at Regulatory Research Associates, where he was in charge of analyzing and reporting on utility regulation in the Mid-Atlantic. And as I mentioned, we'll also have Thayer Tomlinson on the line to help answer questions today. Thayer Tomlinson is a contractor for Energy and Security Group, a woman-owned small business that manages the support contract for the Energy Star congregations and small business programs. And so to get us started today, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Taylor Allred.
Thanks, Erin. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, you sound great.
All right, thanks. So I want to thank everybody for joining our webinar. I'm going to start off by giving a quick overview of what each of our presenters will be covering. First of all, I have been ramping up SACE's engagement with the faith community around energy efficiency, particularly in Tennessee. And so I'm going to provide a quick overview of energy efficiency opportunities in worship facilities, as well as a path toward improving environmental stewardship. Louise is going to tell us about Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light's vision and ongoing work in energy efficiency advocacy across Tennessee. And Jerry is going to provide some background on Energy Star. Then he'll provide an in-depth overview of the powerful Portfolio Manager tool, which is America's leading platform for benchmarking energy, water use, and greenhouse gas emissions for commercial buildings. So first off, for those that may not spend much time thinking about energy efficiency, I wanted to start off with a definition. This is from the International Energy Agency. They say that energy efficiency is a way of managing and restraining the growth in energy consumption. Something is more efficient if it delivers more services for the same energy input or the same services for less energy input. Now, some people don't know the difference between energy efficiency and conservation. The difference with conservation is that you are actually reducing a service or going without it in order to save energy. There are great opportunities for both efficiency and conservation. They should be examined in concert, but just getting that definition out of the way, efficiency enables you to get the same services. Next slide, Aaron. So worship facilities are really ripe for energy efficiency upgrades. They're often very large buildings, very old buildings, and sometimes have some structural problems that can contribute to very severe energy waste. Even newer facilities have plenty of energy savings potential, though. So no matter the age of your building, you should absolutely look into a journey toward environmental stewardship through energy efficiency. There are some issues particular to worship facilities, like having a much larger load one day of the week than on other days, which can create issues with timing your HVAC setbacks right, having a lot of lighting for sometimes a small amount of people in a room. So churches spend a lot of money on energy, and the savings from efficiency can be really big. So churches or any worship facilities typically spend 5 to 50% of their budget on utility bills, and through energy efficiency, a concerted effort for some of the most commonly adopted upgrades, a 10 to 30% bill reduction is common, and sometimes much higher reductions are achieved. And that can mean thousands of dollars a year for even a very small congregation. For medium size, over 10,000. For large, many tens of thousands of dollars a year. Next slide. So where's all that energy going? Well, by far, the biggest use of energy in worship facilities is space heating, over 50%. After that, the next biggest is cooling. So taking those two together, HVAC is by far the biggest chunk of energy usage, and therefore, it's also one of the biggest opportunities for energy savings. Another big area of use is lighting, and lighting absolutely offers a great amount of efficiency gains as well, and is typically one of the most cost-effective upgrades that you can make. Next slide. So here's a quick overview of a journey of environmental stewardship, a path that I would recommend embarking upon for any congregation that's getting interested in energy efficiency, saving money, improving environmental stewardship. And I'm going to go through the next few slides and give a quick overview of each of these points. Next slide, please. So the Energy Star Action Workbook for congregations can serve as your central roadmap toward energy stewardship. Energy Star, and Jerry can plug in more on this later, does offer co-branding opportunities with organizations. So if your denomination or just your congregation is interested in co-branding materials, he could talk to you about that. SACE and TIPL actually have co-branded this document, and we will include that in the post-webinar email that we send along with the recording of this webinar. Next slide. So next step, once you look at the action workbook, is to form a team. Energy efficiency really is a journey. It's not a destination. And first, you need to recruit. You may want to tap some people that are involved, some people that maybe have more capacity and would like to be more involved in the congregation, and then make it official. go before your session or whatever your governing body is and get official recognition as an organization within the congregation. Next, connect with other teams. You may have a regional denominational organization, and the other congregations in that denomination may have similar teams. If you put them together, you can form a larger regional team and then ramp that up to national and beyond for getting ever-increasing savings and impact on our environmental stewardship. So pick a name. Here are a few examples. Any others would do, really. And then make sure to educate and encourage the congregation as a whole to support energy efficiency. Don't just act in a bubble. You really need to keep a mindset toward continually building buy-in. Finally, you definitely want to work with an existing property committee, assuming that your congregation has one, and they can point you in the right direction for getting approval for all of the energy efficiency upgrades that you identify that you'd like to pursue. Next slide. So the next step is to get a professional energy audit. And I place a lot of emphasis on this step because it's really the best way to make sure that you're aware of your facility's areas for improvement, the big energy waste issues, and furthermore, you get an analysis of how much money you can save with each recommended efficiency upgrade and how long it's going to take to recover your upfront investment through those energy savings. Many utilities provide funding for audits. Definitely don't want to pass up a chance for a free energy audit. A really thorough energy audit for a medium to large facility without any utility funding can cost upwards of $10,000. So if you can get something that's going to get you some thorough audit results or even some less thorough audit results for free or very low cost, you definitely shouldn't pass that up. Here in the Tennessee Valley Authority's service area, they do have Building Performance Institute certified engineers that can provide an analysis of all your opportunities, payback times, and you will need to go through the local power company to request that. But if you're interested and located in the service territory of a local power company served by TVA, feel free to reach out to me for help. I've got my email listed here, and it'll be at the end of the presentation too. Next slide. So next, you're going to want to hire a contractor to follow through with the upgrades that you've identified. You want to make sure that you go through the utility vetted contractor network. Often that's required for getting any rebates offered by the utilities. You want to double check ahead of time with the utility website for any specific requirements so that you don't move ahead with an upgrade project and then find out you missed the boat on the incentives and rebates. You may need multiple contractors for different types of upgrades, and you'll want to make sure that you manage that within the utility programs as well. Next slide. So next, you're going to need to figure out how to pay for these upgrades. Some congregations may be fortunate enough to be able to cover it with existing operating budgets or capital funds, but it really doesn't need to, energy efficiency doesn't need to be limited to those congregations by any means. There are robust rebates and incentives from utilities. TVA is certainly not an exception. They just reopened their commercial energy efficiency program this month, and they do offer a schedule of standard incentives for common upgrades. And then they also offer custom incentives for more unique equipment or comprehensive retrofits that they may need to put some more analysis into. Next slide. So beyond the rebates and incentives, you're going to have some cost left over to cover, and you definitely want to look into grants, local community action organizations, your local government, your state government. Sometimes the state air board will issue annual grants. And then also within your larger denomination, there are often capital funds that are loaned out to congregations. Another great option is pathway lending here in TVA's territory. They do provide low interest loans, and you can get from $20,000 up to $5 million and use it to cover up to 100% of your project costs. Bank loans are another option, but it's likely that the terms would be less attractive than something like pathway lending. And then, of course, you can pursue loans within your denomination in addition to grants. Next slide. So the next step is to start using the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and that's all I'm going to say about that because Jerry has a lot more to say about it than I do. Next slide. So you want to set some goals with your team as you're working through the action workbook, using the Portfolio Manager tool, starting to make upgrades and looking at what you could do as future upgrades. Use those audit results and prioritize based on payback time. You may want to take a leap and make some bigger upgrades if you have capital at that time. But you definitely want to use Portfolio Manager throughout the process to help you monitor your usage and keep an ongoing tab on what your best opportunity for improvement is. Using Portfolio Manager, you can get an Energy Star certification for your facility, which can significantly increase property value. So you definitely want to include that angle when you're pitching any upgrades to your property committee, to your session, to any budgeting committees. Then there's some other opportunities as well. One of them is Interfaith Power and Light's Cool Congregations Challenge, and Louise is going to tell you a little bit more about that. And then Energy Star also has a Battle of the Buildings team challenge where you could team up with other congregations and compete. Next slide. So what are some of the top efficiency upgrades? I got into this a little bit with the top energy uses. Lighting is definitely one of the first things you want to look at. Highly cost-effective, quick payback times. Replacing T12 ballasts with electronic T8s or even T5s or even LEDs can save you a lot of money. You should also consider daylighting if you have any opportunities for a sunroof or solar tubes are another option that you could look into. HVAC, heat pumps are the way of the present, really. I wouldn't say so much the future anymore. They are far more efficient than electric resistance heat. And looking forward, and for many congregations currently, geothermal ground source heat pumps are a great option. They're the most efficient technology out there, but they do cost a bit more up front, so the payback time tends to be longer than an air source heat pump. Weatherization, highly cost effective. That's basically a fancy word for sealing leaks, caulking around windows, putting weather stripping around doors. You want to insulate if you have an attic, which may not be the case in a sanctuary, but attic insulation is very cost effective. And then you may want to also look into reflective roof coatings. Next slide. So there are also a lot of quick fixes that are essentially free. Turn off the lights when they're not being used. You can put up post-it notes. That's a very inexpensive solution, or you may want to consider occupancy sensors. Turn down the heat You saw heat is a huge energy use. These are the Department of Energy recommended settings, 68 in the winter, 78 in the summer. And make sure you make meaningful setbacks, so when nobody's in the building, set it so it'll automatically turn to 45 in the winter and 85 in the summer. Of course, you'll need a programmable thermostat for that, and it's highly recommended that you get a 7-day thermostat rather than a 5+2 day. Close the curtains in the summer to keep out heat. Use power strips to reduce plug load. Make sure you actually turn off the strip when you're finished with all the devices plugged into it. Turn down the water heater. You really don't need it to be over 120, and closer to 110 can often get the job done for what hot water is used in a congregational facility. Finally, you can delamp vending machines. They're glowing 24 hours a day with a bright light that doesn't really serve any purpose. If you take out the bulb, you'll save $100 per year for each machine. Next. So here's a success story. This is my church, Westminster Presbyterian here in Knoxville. We actually did receive a cool congregation recognition from Interfaith Power and Light for reducing our carbon emissions by over 30%. We made significant energy efficiency upgrades, and we also put in a 5 kilowatt solar system. You definitely want to hit energy efficiency before looking into solar. Your payback time is going to be way quicker, and all that great solar energy you're producing, it's kind of a shame if you're just letting all the power blow out cracks around your doors, out the windows. And so make sure to take energy efficiency upgrades as your first step. Next slide. So there are certainly a lot of challenges in embarking upon a path toward environmental stewardship in any congregation. It's important to educate the congregation on why energy efficiency matters. It saves money. Everyone agrees with that. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions. It's really just the right thing to do. Why waste and cause everybody's electricity expenses to go up? So decision making can be tough in a congregation. A lot of things will just get kicked around in committees to no end. Certainly debt levels and competing uses for capital can be an issue, but energy efficiency has the advantage of actually saving money. It actually pays for itself. And then finally, of course, politics. Everyone wants to save money, but the message of mitigating climate change through energy efficiency may get mixed reactions depending on your audience. Of course, once upon a time, conservation was conservative. It was a conservative value, but something has changed a little bit. Fortunately, energy efficiency can really appeal to anyone, and you'll just want to be conscious of your audience. Make sure you make the money savings pitch, and take it from there. So next slide. So I appreciate y'all's time, and next up we have Louise. We're going to take all of your questions at the end, so please continue typing in as you feel fit, and I will let Louise take it from here.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank everyone for being with us this evening. So Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light, you can go to the next slide, please, is focused on a spiritual response to climate change. And we do understand that climate change is caused by human behavior, and it's by the combustion of fossil fuels. Next slide, please. And the moral problem that we're faced is that the people who use the most energy, who use from the burning of fossil fuels, have created most of the carbon pollution, and the people who have used the least carbon fuel sources are the most vulnerable to climate effects. Next slide, please. And so the mission of the Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light is to respond to climate change through the upholding of the sacredness of all life, and to protect vulnerable communities, and to care for the earth. Next slide, please. So we're working on several goals this year, and we're going to be working with our senators to encourage their support of climate protection, with the TVA board members to encourage them to offer lower income programs for their customers. We will continue to offer a spiritual response to climate change through regional events and recognize businesses for their climate work, and that we will encourage our partner faith groups and members opportunities to respond spiritually to climate change and to reduce their carbon footprints. Next slide, please. So to focus on the last point, last goal is that Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light is partnering with SACE and the Energy Star for congregations and reducing the footprints of faith groups. So we're encouraging our partners, our faith group partners, to take advantage of all of the opportunities that Taylor just outlined. And we're also encouraging individual members of the congregation to get their energy audit for their own home through their local power company. And we're also working within communities for TIPL members to provide them opportunities to help weatherize inner city homes. Next slide, please. So an opportunity that is available through the National Interfaith Power and Light is called Cool Congregation. So if any congregation finishes an energy efficiency project or renewable project or a grounds and water conservation project in the year 2015, then they can enter the National IPL Cool Congregation Challenge, and for a chance to win cash prizes and recognition. There are 5 different categories to enter, and the winner in each category receives up to $1,000. These projects can take place anywhere as long as they are run through the congregation, and that means, you know, inside the buildings or other buildings on the grounds, within the homes, or within the community. It's as long as it's a program that's operated and managed by your faith group, it's eligible. And then the winners are chosen by an interfaith panel of faith and lay leaders. So the application for the 2015 winners will be available in December. So you can be working on your project all year and then apply for it in December. Next slide, please. So there's 5 different contest categories: one for energy efficiency, one for renewable energy, another one on climate-friendly grounds, water conservation, and inspiring people at home in the community. And so here you can go to the coolcongregations.org website and get more information. And also, if you would like to contact me, you can contact at that email website as well. Thank you. So I guess we're going to be going on to Jerry for his presentation. Jerry Lawson.
Yes, thank you, Louise. Can everyone hear?
Yes,
Oh,
Jerry,
Yes,
you
I can
sound
hear you,
good.
Jerry. Thanks.
Okay. Well, my thanks to Lise and Taylor. We at Energy Star have a, 10-plus year history of working with Interfaith Power and Light, which is in 40-some states now. We've started working with Louise in Tennessee in the last several months and met Taylor and SACE. I'd like to make a comparison. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is mainly known as a regulator, but we do that job promulgating national regulations and rules, but we have to work through state environmental agencies. They actually do much of the implementation. So on the voluntary side, it's very much the same, in which my team and I develop tools, training, technical support, public recognition, but it's working through Interfaith Power and Light and partners like SACE that we can really get our job done to reach local congregations and small businesses in our other work. But one of our main tools is Portfolio Manager, so I'd like to get into some detail on that. This will not be a training. I'll end the presentation with access to training. This is an overview. Next, please. Okay, EPA has a history, again, of since the late 90s working with the faith community, because we know the faith community cares about human health, cares about stewardship of the environment, care of creation, and this is a wonderful overlay with our congressionally mandated job of working for human health. Now, Energy Star has been around for going on 24 years, most of my time at EPA. I actually came from the electric utility and state energy office background. So at EPA, we feel our job is to help people understand how technology is working, to get training, to objectively measure success, and then we like to provide recognition because that educates and inspires others to go forward. So churches like Taylor's Westminster Presbyterian are one of our favorite things to do, is work with success stories. Next, please. Our administrator, Gina McCarthy, is a person of faith and has delighted in working with the faith community. I can't tell you, I've been in on lots and lots of calls with our administrator, McCarthy, and National Interfaith Power and Light leadership, and working with other groups across the country. So she actually will be at the Vatican in a few weeks and has just worked with every faith community out there. So we're very proud of her, and I've seen a lot of EPA administrators in my 24 years, and Gina McCarthy's my favorite. She's the best. So she is very squarely with faith community, and she appreciates the importance of your influence. Next, please. So Energy Star supports your mission of caring for creation, and we know that you want to be good stewards of the financial resources of your congregation as well. Next. Taylor's mentioned co-branding. We do have some materials that can be co-branded, your logo with our logo, showing the partnership. The fact is that nearly 90% of Americans recognize the Energy Star logo, so it's a good team to join with. Next. Going back, I think this is from 2011. This is not just logo recognition, but influence. On the far left, that is the Good Housekeeping seal, which is sort of the gold standard. And you can see that we have reached pretty much parity with the Good Housekeeping seal on influence. Next. In fact, counting all the ways in which our brand logo is out there in product advertising, in meetings, webinars, logo like this, electronic advertising, print, we figure we reach about 1.5 billion people across the planet. We're working, Canada has adopted our portfolio manager tool. Our products team works with the European Union, so we're really global. Next. Key point is that an Energy Star certified building on average emits 35% fewer greenhouse gas emissions than peers. Next. This is at the end of 2013. I will have 2014 data in a few weeks, but 950 million metric tons carbon equivalent. What's that mean? Well, it's the equivalent of 18 million homes, electric use, or 25 million passenger vehicles emissions, or taking 33 coal-fired power plants offline, or more positively, planting 3 billion tree seedlings for 10 years each year. You can see the 118 million metric tons equivalent every year. We're increasing about 12% a year. Next. So on the business side, financially, we look at the metrics. I think Taylor mentioned the increases in asset value of facilities. We know you're not planning on selling your church probably, but having a strong asset value is good for when you want to expand or need to borrow money. Again, on the private sector side, we know in commercial real estate that higher rents are justified with lower energy costs, or we know landlords that keep rents lower, subsidized essentially by lower energy prices. Next, please. So what about houses of worship? Our best estimation is that there are at least 370,000. Even during the recession, expansion of congregations was growing with repurposing other commercial buildings. Say an abandoned strip center became a church. We've seen a lot of that. And that reminds me, a quick insight here for those of you that might travel to Nashville next November. Worship Facilities Expo will be in Nashville next November. We're very active there. We will share more information about it, but it's a gathering of about 5,000 facility managers, volunteers, green teams, clergy, the architects, engineers who build worship facilities. So there's a lot going on there, and that's something we'll tell you more about. But we're very plugged into that type of activity, and that's where we get a lot of our numbers and a lot of insights, is working with actual faith community participants. So more of a bottom line here with the same sort of average savings that are potential that Taylor mentioned. That's about $1 billion that the worship community or the faith community could recover, and $1 billion that could go back into your ministries and missions. Next. So Portfolio Manager, what is it? It's a free online software, and I say free advisedly in that it's taxpayer supported. So I would put it this way: you've already paid, so it is there for your taking. At EnergyStar.gov/benchmark, you can start learning more about Portfolio Manager. There is a specific module for houses of worship, just as there's one for public schools or retail or offices. End of 2013, we had nearly 400,000 facilities using Portfolio Manager. We have friends out there like LEAD, the U.S. Green Building Council, and Green Faith and Green Globes that require the use of Portfolio Manager as part of their certification. We even have a growing number of mayors and city councils starting to require larger commercial buildings to use Portfolio Manager to benchmark. It's not an EPA thing. It's that locally, as part of their own greenhouse gas emissions reductions, they've chosen to use the Portfolio Manager tool. And of course, the federal government requires its use in all of our owned and occupied facilities. Next. Here's another take on the same data that Taylor showed you. This is breaking it, showing the difference for small, medium, and large houses of worship. It does matter. You know, we think thermal mass has a lot to do with it. The larger thermal mass in the megachurches and larger buildings holding more heat. So you see some skewing for smaller and medium worship facilities needing more heating than the larger. But the point really here is, depending on the size of your worship facility, you can sort of take some quick guesses on where to be looking. But as Taylor mentioned, lighting is always probably one of the first places to start. But in our action workbook, I'll mention in a moment, we have a lot of no-cost and low-cost things that you would want to do even before you look at upgrading your lighting. But as Taylor said, turning off the lights is really the single best thing you can do when they're not being used. And we have good data on how often we don't turn off the lights. That's sort of a function of putting in motion sensors and vacancy sensors. There are significant savings available when you automate your lighting. Next, please. So I've already mentioned nearly 400,000 buildings benchmarking. We only have somewhere north of 2,000 worship facilities. So that's we're one of the newer modules of portfolio management. And you know, worship facilities are different than, you know, a business where you have someone paid to do these things. Next, please. So as an energy management tool, this platform allows you to assess the energy and water use for the whole building. You do not have to track water use, but a lot of worship facilities are doing that. And it has nothing to do with your energy score, but it's just there. We're also working with EPA's solid waste folks to soon, in a year or so, be able to track recycling. So once you benchmark, that is, create a baseline of your energy use, your greenhouse gas emissions will ebb and flow depending on your energy performance. You can track your green power purchases, and one of the important functions is being able to share and report data. For example, by voluntarily sharing your data with Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light, or SACE, they can aggregate all the greenhouse gas emissions and savings for all their members and partners, so that you can have a sort of a single reported number if you want to do that. I'll say more in a moment about sharing. A lot of custom reporting options within Portfolio Manager, and then ultimately it's how you achieve Energy Star certification is within this tool. I'll let the next slide speak for the rest of these, except for the fact you will get a score somewhere between 1 and 100, 50 being average. Immediately tells you, oh, we've got a lot of opportunity, or we're already, you know, doing very well. A 75 score is required for certification, and the 75 has to be verified by a licensed professional, either a professional engineer or a registered architect. And we work with local organizations, with denominations, etc., to help find those volunteer architects and engineers. Next, please. More than 25,000 properties have earned the Energy Star. We have now about 50 worship facilities. We know for a fact that there are some hundreds of worship facilities eligible, but they have not yet gotten around to finding their architect or engineer to verify their data. So we've got a lot of work to do. We're working with U.S. Green Building Council lead APs, if any of you are lead APs or know them. Benchmarking and verification support counts towards annual hours that lead APs need to accrue to stay active. Next, please. So going to talk about the Portfolio Manager that relaunched in 2013 after 2 years of about 200 users helping us identify ways to improve its functionality and user friendliness. We did relaunch, and it's still kind of new if you haven't seen it in a while. Next, please. Okay, you can, as the name implies, portfolio, there may be multiple properties involved if you're working at a denominational level, or even one congregation may have multiple properties. But at the property level, if you have one house of worship you're concerned with, you're talking about one property. There is tabbed navigation within the tool for sharing and planning and reporting and recognition. You can click around very quickly and easily. Multiple ways to get around. We have pop-up definitions and assistance when you mouse over certain functions, and there are all kinds of tips included as you go. Next, please. This is what this insurance office is what the page for a church or worship facility would look like. Your current Energy Star score will always show as it would your original baseline. Next, please. I'll call your attention to there are a lot of fact sheets. They're typically one-page, two-sided PDFs that you can download at this URL at the bottom of the page, energystar.gov/building/tools-resources. Also, working with Taylor and Louise, I can easily send out some of these PDFs, particularly the data collection worksheet to get started on your benchmarking, and the quick start guide. But there, you can see there are others available too. And to the right, you can kind of see what a help page looks like. It's very user-friendly, and it's easy to click around. You can ask a question when you're in Portfolio Manager, and one of our professionals will reply. Next. We have data entry wizards that help walk you through your data entry. On the previous slide, there was a utility data entry PDF that you can get, and these are typically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to do some of the actions as you learn them. You can download directly from a spreadsheet if you already have information. Increasingly, there are utilities which will help you directly download your energy history straight into Portfolio Manager. And you get alert messages if you maybe put a decimal point or too many zeros or something. Next, please. So there are 3 ways to get your data in, manually from a spreadsheet, or there are third-party providers like utilities and private sector companies that will help you if that's an option. Next, please. This is just sort of a data entry approach. I'm not going to spend much time on some of these pages. These will give you an idea of what the tool looks like. I will end with a link where you can look at recorded trainings that last an hour, or even find when our next live training is. We do live trainings once a month that anybody can tune into. Next. This is what it's looking like. You're going to put in things like your gross floor area. It's going to compare your gross floor square area to the different square footages that you have put in for the different functions going on in the congregation. Next, please. You will choose by clicking boxes if you're all electric or electric and natural gas, or you out maybe in the country using propane, butane, or maybe more urban district steam or heat. If you want to do water, that's below. Next, please. The pink and red is what it looks like when you when the portfolio manager thinks you've put in erroneous. You know, if you've got a gap in the number of days that you needed to, you need 12 months of continuous energy use, 12 months of utility bills to get your initial score. So if you, like I said, have too many zeros, or you're putting megawatts instead of kilowatts, it will help correct you. Next. to share. You can search for other users. You can form a connection. It's sort of like social networking on Facebook. You can share data together if that makes sense, if that's something that is to your advantage. And you can set the access levels for sharing, whether if within your congregation you may have multiple people who all need to go into Portfolio Manager and have access to the data, either to read or to update or share. So you can, the lead person for the account, and it's a password protected account, can grant levels of access to different people that you want to share with. Next. So this is sort of what it looks like sharing, and as you can see on the right hand side, it tells you how to do all this. We have trainings on sharing. We have the one-page, one-page, two-sided PDF that is all about sharing, steps 1 through 5. So don't be intimidated by the functionality and the power of Portfolio Manager. Everybody learns new software these days, and this one is really pretty user-friendly, and it's really the best in the marketplace, and the price is free. Next, please. Next. And next. So this, you can set goals by percentage or kilowatt hours savings. You can say, I want to score 95, and it will kind of back you into what that looks like. So there are different ways to set your goals. Next, please. You can generate your own custom reports, or you can use templates that are already built into Portfolio Manager. So once you've got your baseline and start looking around, you can see what some of the standard reports are that you don't have to customize, or you can decide that in our congregation we care about something different and we want a unique reporting. Again, there is a PDF with 2 pages on how to set up standard and custom reporting. Next, please. This is just to show the kind of graphs and charts you can assemble either by custom or standard reports. These are ways that you can report out to your clergy, your decision makers, the members of the congregation, maybe every 6 months or once a year to show the progress. Next, please. So applying for ENERGY STAR certification is a function within the tool as well. That's something you can consider working towards. If not, we know not every congregation will make it to a 75, but think about this. If you start out at a 10 or a 15 and you get to a 30 score, you've really achieved something significant for your congregation and for stewardship of the earth. So it's all about continuous improvement. So, certification is a good goal, but, we don't encourage anyone to worry about it. Next, please. So on the far right, any congregation can join ENERGY STAR as a full partner. You're as good as General Electric or Walmart. They're partners, so you can be a partner. Your denomination as an association can join as well. The promotional mark is available to anyone to learn more. Anybody can use that. And then the certification mark on the left is for certified facilities. Next, please. Quick word, tomorrow, you can go to ENERGY STAR one dot, not two, sorry for the error down there. ENERGYSTAR.gov/congregations is the action workbook, and there's a big appendices as a second download, full of no cost, low cost, how to form a green team, how to work with clergy and contractors, just lots and lots of ideas. We have the Sure Energy Savers, the no cost, low cost. Then in the appendices, there's a lot of action items and checklists and definitions and explanations of different types of equipment and tools. So urge everyone to look at the workbook and go ahead and download. Next, please. We have found that there's really kind of a 7-step process. This is not hard and fast. You don't have to do these things, but we found that making a commitment, starting with benchmarking and assessing your goals, knowing where you're starting, creating an action plan, implementing your action plan, evaluating your progress back in Portfolio Manager, and then through scoring in Portfolio Manager, we like to recognize achievements. Next, please. We have a competitions guide. I think it's maybe 30 pages. We learned that friendly competition, we learned this from our partners, from cities and organizations like Interfaith Power and Light with its cool congregations, that friendly competitions are very effective ways to get people to do good things. So we have assembled all kinds of ideas and strategies and ways to help if you want to pursue competitions in your denomination or in SACE or Interfaith Power and Light. Next, please. Taylor mentioned the Battle of the Buildings or National Buildings Competition. At the bottom there is the URL for EnergyStar.gov/Battle of the Buildings. We encourage teams. There could be a team SACE or a team TIPL or, you know, a team Chattanooga. Any way that anyone, two or more, 3 players want to get together and say we are a team and we challenge, you know, we're the Baptists, we challenge the Presbyterians across town, or we challenge our fellow Baptists, or however you want to go about it. There are lots of ways to play in Battle of the Buildings, and it's a wonderful overlap for achieving cool congregations recognition. You can do both, and your work within Battle of the Buildings will be applicable to cool congregations. Next, please. So, always, anytime, for technical support, you can go to EnergyStar.gov/buildingshelp. There's a very simple little form you can fill in, ask your question, hit send. If it's a congregation, it comes to me and to Thayer Tomlinson, who's online, is my tech support help provider. Thayer and I often find ourselves on the line with one congregation doing some hand-holding, you know, some helping, some answering of questions. There are no dumb questions. We want to get in and help. To go to training, if you got nothing to do tonight, you can go to EnergyStar.gov/training. You can find the recorded training on Portfolio Manager. It's about an hour, and you can take Portfolio Manager 101. You want to stay up late, you can go on to 201. But 101 is going to work for most everybody. If you're a facility manager, you might want to go on to 201. If you want to just see more about the features and the tricks and great things you can do, you can go to New Portfolio Manager and learn about the features in more depth than I've mentioned here. And then kind of your home page with Energy Star is EnergyStar.gov/congregation. So we invite you to visit there, and you can download the workbook and find success stories and other tools and resources there. With that, I'll end and be happy to participate in questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Jerry. This is Taylor again. We've run over slightly, but we do not have that many questions, so we'll have you all out of here very quickly. First question is, will this webinar be available for later viewing by others? Yes, it will. This whole webinar is being recorded, and you will be able to access it afterward. We'll send a link around to everyone who is on the webinar right now, and you feel free to share it. There will also be a link on SACE's website, cleanenergy.org, under our archived webinars. And if you can't find it, feel free to reach out to either me or Aaron, Taylor@cleanenergy.org or Aaron@cleanenergy.org. Similar question, will it be possible to get a PDF copy of the slides to share with our congregations? We don't typically send out a PDF of the slides with the post-webinar email that I mentioned. That being said, if all of the presenters are okay with it, we could certainly send it along. I don't want to put Jerry and Louise on the spot, but if anyone is specifically interested in getting a PDF of all the slides, reach out to me, taylor@cleanenergy.org, and I will work it out.
It's absolutely fine for EPA. Our slides are available.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And it's fine for me as well.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, y'all. My church is in Alabama. Are you aware of any similar programs in the state of Alabama?
There is.
Yes.
Alabama has Interfaith Power and Light.
Yep, that's a good point.
So I'm sure Louise or I can, I think, Louise, help me, is it alipl.org? I think that might be it.
I'm not, I don't know, Jerry.
Okay. Louise or I, will be sure that Taylor has the Alabama IPL address. But it's there.
I can definitely point folks in the right direction there.
Okay.
Definitely feel free to reach out to me. SACE does work in Alabama, and I would be happy to point you in the right direction. Depending on where you are in Alabama, those TVA programs might apply to you, and if that's not the case, then you can certainly access programs through another utility, most likely Alabama Power. Do you support the Nashville area, personal and for the church? Absolutely. Feel free to reach out to me, and I will get you pointed in the right direction and help out all that I can. All right, that's all the questions we have, so I appreciate everyone's time, and I will turn it back over to Aaron to close things out for us.
Sure, Taylor. Thank you, Jerry, Louise, and Taylor, and everybody for being on the call with us this evening, and for your thoughtful questions. As Taylor mentioned, today's presentation has been recorded, and it will be available on the webinar archive page of the SACE website, which is cleanenergy.org. And we will also send you that link to the recording once it has been processed in the follow-up email you'll receive probably in the beginning of next week. And since all the presenters are in agreement with sharing the PDF, that would be fine for us to share that in the follow-up as well. So we appreciate your support and interest and hope that you all join us again. Have a great night.